harsh reality of the Springbok squad for the Rugby Championship is that there are winners and losers. Some players had to get dropped, maybe undeservingly, and some players kept their spot. In this video, I want to chat about those players that are the winners picked in the squad, but more importantly, discuss the losers and potentially why they didn't get selected. I just want to say thank you so much for the support on yesterday's video and yesterday's announcement. If you did miss it, what we announced is what we're trying to do by the end of the year on this channel. This channel's goal by the end of the year is to interview Siya Kolisi and Rassie Erasmus. And the way we do that is by making noise and showing that we have a voice and that we have the capabilities to host those interviews. So if you wouldn't mind, please absolutely mur that subscribe button. If you haven't, leave this video a like, and as always, leave your opinions down in the comments. I do try to get back to as many comments as I can. With that said, let's get in to the winners and losers of the Springbok squad. Now, the first winner in the Springbok squad is definitely Ulrich Louw. Now, before the Irish series, we were asking where's Ulrich Louw. He's had this great season for the Blue Bulls, and we thought on this channel that he should have been selected at least for the squad of for that Ireland series. There, Rassie and the Springbok squad rather went with Kwagga Smith and Ivan Roos. Now, Louw was placed on sort of a holding list and then got his chance against Portugal. He played 33 minutes, and I thought he provided some very, very good impact into that Springbok pack. Now we've seen that Roos has ended up getting dropped for Ulrich Louw. Roos played 101 minutes in the test matches against Wales and Portugal. But for that number 8 position, we do expect Jasper Visser to come back into that number 8 slot when his suspension is done. Now, that suspension has kind of given Rassie Erasmus free rein to sort of test out a couple of number 8s. Ivan Roos, Kwagga Smith, and now Ulrich Louw. Now, Kwagga was pretty decent in that Irish series, but he still does have a couple of weaknesses that he needs to work on. I think I prefer Kwagga coming off of the bench. He's more of an impact player for me, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Ulrich Louw probably start 1 or 2 test matches in the Rugby Championship while we wait for Jasper Visser to come back. Jasper is meant to be back for the New Zealand test, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Ulrich Louw start one of the Australia games, and probably Kwagga Smith will start one of the Australia games. But Ulrich Louw, we need to give him his flowers. He had a great season for the Bulls. He performed well in that Portugal test, and I do think he is one for the future. The next winner in the squad is Ruan Nokia. Now, he wasn't even placed on the standby list for that first squad to face Ireland, but with all our injuries in that lock position, I mean, Loet de Jager, Jean Klein, now Franco Morset has been injured and is out for about 6 months, so we had to bring in another lock, and Ruan Nokia, another one of those guys who had a phenomenal URC season for the Blue Bulls. And I think with the line-out troubles that the Springboks had against Ireland, we need someone who's a very, very good line-out caller, which is Ruan Nokia. His work rate is extremely high, and he's going to sort of provide a little bit extra in that lock position to maybe what we've been seeing so far from the Irish, Portuguese and Wales test. I don't think he might start 1 or 2 games, but I think he's going to be used off of the bench. I think we'll see Eben Etzebeth and Archie Snyman start, and then potentially have Salman Murat and Ruan Nokia coming off the bench, but definitely a winner in the Springbok squad. The next winner is Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Now, we have spoken about him a little bit in previous videos, but I thought he had a very, very good performance against Portugal, and with Malcolm Marx's injury, he is set to miss that first test against Australia. So yes, Hendrik Wessels does play prop, but he can also play hooker. So I think his versatility is what's really got him into the squad. Rassie really, really likes that he can play prop as well as hooker, and he's probably our third choice hooker while Malcolm Marx is still injured. We got Bongi, we got Johan Grobler, and I do think Jan-Hendrik Wessels could play hooker if need be. They've also invested a lot of time and money into Jan-Hendrik Wessels all the way from sort of under 15, under 16 level. So it's good to see him finally getting that go in a Springbok top. And like I said, I do think he looked very, very good against Portugal, and his utility is definitely what has kept him in the squad. The next winner is Johan Grobler. Now, we are looking not thin, but there is opportunities in that hooker position. Obviously, we still have Bongi Winambe and Malcolm Marx. Malcolm being out for that first test in Australia definitely gives the green light for Johan Grobler to come off the bench. We saw him start against Portugal, and I think he looked pretty good. He's almost a like-for-like replacement with Malcolm Marx. He's good at the breakdown, he's good on defense, and this is just Rassie trying to build that depth in that hooker position. I still think Bongi Mbonambe is going to start, but we're going to see Johan Grobler come off the bench, and I wouldn't be surprised to even see Jan-Hendrik Wessels come off the bench in one of the tests in the Rugby Championship in that hooker position. But Johan Grobler has been also had a great season for the Blue Bulls, and it's good to see him get his shot, and he looked very, very good in that Portugal Portugal test. So I'm keen to see what he can do against these bigger teams like Australia and New Zealand. The next winner in the squad is definitely Morne van den Berg. Now, before the selection for Wales and Ireland, a lot of people, including myself, were saying that Sanelo Nohamba needs to be included in the squad, in the Springbok squad, to definitely face Wales and even Portugal. Well, Rassie ended up going with Morne van den Berg, who's more of a scrum off. And now with the injuries at scrum off, Faf is injured. We got Herschel Yankees that's injured. Jaden Hendricks is injured. So we only really have 3 scrum offs at the moment, being Morne van den Berg, Kobus Reinach, and Grant Williams. We weren't sure how he was going to look in a Springbok top, but he definitely put us to ease in that Portugal test. He's reminiscent of Faf de Klerk, right? He's very feisty. He's quick at the breakdown. He just has that little bit of an X factor, and he could definitely be one for the future. I'm very excited to see him in the Rugby Championship. Yes, there will still be comments about where's Sanelo Nohamba. I saw them on yesterday's video. I think Sanelo Nohamba just needs 1, maybe 2 more very, very good seasons to sort of peg himself in a Springbok top. I don't doubt that we're going to see Sanelo Nohamba in a Springbok top at some point. But for now, Morne van den Berg from the Lions is definitely a winner in this side, and I'm very, very interested to see what he does in the Rugby Championship. The next winner is Ben Jason Dixon. Now, he was quite a surprise selection in that Wales test, and it does seem like Rassie and the coaching staff do prefer him, or they're attracted to the style of play that Ben Jason provides. I think that is because he's sort of a Peter Steph-esque player. He can play lock, he can play flank, he's good at the breakdowns, he's good at defense, and he has that attacking capability. He also had a very, very good game against Portugal, and I think the big thing that the Springboks are going to try to do in the next 2 to 3 years is keep the workload off of an Eben Etzebeth, the Peter Steph du Toit, so that they can make the next Rugby World Cup. So building that depth, and Ben Jason Dixon definitely allows Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks to rest Peter Steph du Toit in some games and just frees up a little bit of Peter Steph du Toit's time, which is super, super vital when building depth and when building to a Rugby World Cup. So Ben Jason Dixon, another one for the future that could be very, very dangerous. And then the last winner on the team is Sasha Feinberg Mngumezulu. Now, we have been shouting his praises on this channel in the last couple of weeks, but he's just so good. I mean, he can play 10, he can play 12, he can play 15. We saw him come on for 3 minutes in that first Ireland test at fly-off. We saw him play for 77 minutes at fullback in that second Ireland game, and he looked really, really good. His counter-attacking is what got us those penalties in the second Ireland test. He looked so comfortable against Portugal, coming on in the 44th minute for Manie Libbok. He absolutely broke open that game. And Sasha Feinberg Mngumezulu, I mean, when Damian Willems is back, imagine we have Damian Willems at 15, maybe Manie at 10, Sasha at 12. I mean, there's so many options in that backline, and the Springboks backline depth is in such a good place at the moment. But Sasha Feinberg Mngumezulu is some player. Then we move over into the losers of the squad, the Rugby Championship squad. Now, I'm going to sort of put these two together, Evan Roos and Phepsi Buthelezi. Evan Roos, I think, has come on leaps and bounds since his first Springbok cap. He was always known for this aggressive, sort of giving away easy penalties, and he's fixed that so far, but I just don't think he's taken his opportunity as well as he could have. He's still that number 8 Springbok build. He's still big. He gets over the gain line, but I think he just needs to add a few more facets to his game to really make him a world-class 8. We've seen that the coaching staff have preferred now Kwagga Smith and Ulrich Lowe for the Rugby Championship. When Jasper Wiese is back, Jasper Wiese will probably start in the number 8 role. So Evan Roos probably still has a couple of things to work on. He's still a very, very good player, and he's going to continue playing good rugby for the Stormers. But there are just a couple of things that he needs to add to his game. Now, Phepsi Buthelezi, I thought he had a great debut against Portugal. He's been knocking on the door for a while. He trained with the Springboks for sort of 2 months leading up to that Portugal test. He had a great season for the Sharks. I think the reason he hasn't been included in the squad to go to the Rugby Championship is just because of competition. I mean, he's battling the captain of South Africa, Siya Kolisi, double World Cup winning captain. And I definitely think Rassie and the coaching staff see Phepsi Buthelezi as sort of a Siya Kolisi mold. He could be that next number 6. Phepsi can also play 6, he can play 7, he can play 8. So he does have that versatility, that utility that Rassie Erasmus loves so much. I don't think he was far off from making the squad at all. And I do think if there are a couple of injuries in that loose trio, we will see Phepsi Buthelezi come up into that Rugby Championship. So I do think a little bit harsh. I thought he had a good game, and I think he is definitely a Springbok for the future moving into that 2027 Rugby World Cup. The next loser is Trevor Nyakane. Now, Trevor, he's such a good player. I mean, I absolutely love Trevor, but the reality of the situation is that he is 35 at the moment. I don't know if he is going to be in the plans for the 2027 World Cup. We have so many good props. Ox, Vincent Koch, Frans Malherbe. Now we have Jan-Hendrik Wessels coming through. I mean, we're just blessed with a lot of depth, and I think that's probably the reason Trevor Nyakane has missed out here. He's still a world-class prop, and he can play on both sides. You've also got Thomas du Toit. I mean, the competition is just so big at the moment, and I think thinking smartly, Trevor probably isn't going to be in the rotation for that 2027 Rugby World Cup. So it's harsh and a little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't make sense to sort of keep him in the squad if he's not going to be in that next Rugby World Cup. The next player we have to talk about is Andre Hugo Venter. Now, I do think Venter had a good game in Bloem. He scored in Bloem. He had a good debut, and he's also one of those guys who are going to build the depth in that hooker position. Right now, I think we have enough hookers. We have 3 hookers. We have Bongi, Johanna Grobler, and then Jan-Hendrik Wessels can also sort of swing into that hooker position. Malcolm Marx has also been added to the squad, so after the first Australia test, he'll be in there. So it doesn't make sense taking a 4th or 5th hooker to the Rugby Championship. I do think if there is an injury, if Malcolm Marx gets injured again, if Bongi gets injured, then we will see Venter get called up to the Rugby Championship squad. We do just need to keep building that depth in every single position. So if there is an injury, I do think Venter will come in, and I think he will get a couple of caps leading into the 2027 Rugby World Cup. The next 2 guys I want to talk about is Ruan Venter and Kieran Horn. Now, I do think Kieran Horn had a phenomenal debut against Portugal. He scored a try. He looks like a very good fullback, but again, one of those guys who's a victim of depth. We've got Willie Leroux, we've got Fassi, we have Sasha Famu Gumazulu who can play 15. So although he had a good debut, I just think it's just too much depth for him to sort of come in and join the squad. But again, building that depth in every single position is exactly what we need going into the 2027 Rugby World Cup. And then Ruan Venter came off of the bench. He also plays for the Lions. But then again, we have Ben Jason Dixon. We have Peter Steph du Toit who can play that position. So we just, the theme of this video is that we're just super blessed with depth. And that is probably why most of these players miss out. The final player I want to talk about is Faf de Klerk. Now, they have said that Faf is injured, which is why he hasn't been included in the squad. I don't think he had a particularly good series against Ireland. You got guys like Grant Williams, Mona van den Berg, and Kobus Reinach putting some real pressure on Faf de Klerk. So I think it is a little bit of a blessing in disguise that Faf is injured, because now we get to test out our new scrum offs. Now we get to see the combination between Grant Williams and Andre Pollard, or Grant and Mani Lebok, or Sasha, or Kobus Reinach and Pollard, or Mani. So it's going to open up a lot of scenarios and possibilities in that 9-10 position, which I think is a blessing in disguise. Faf is going to have to keep working on his game because the competition is so high. But it is unfortunate that Faf de Klerk isn't going to be going to the Rugby Championship. So that's it. Those are all the winners and losers. Let me know if you guys agree with what I've been saying, with the depth that South Africa have got. Of course, if there are injuries in the Rugby Championship, then any one of these players could come up and join the team. If you haven't, please make sure you absolutely mud that subscribe button. We have a big goal to hit by the end of the year, and we need you guys to come along with us. Leave this video a like and leave your opinions down in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.